Hello, welcome back to the Qaos podcast. Today, we're talking about something very exciting and that has been months in the making. We are going to be talking about our new product, Fiction. So, with us in the studio, we have Thomas, Jack, Kian, who are the three developers of Fiction.
Are you not in the studio?
And then me, the host,
Okay.
Sean Roy, who's the designer of Fiction.
Oh, wow.
So, let's begin. Let's give like a quick overview about what Fiction is, what kind of the idea is, the vision, and then we'll kind of go from there, see where the conversation takes us.
Cool. Want to go first? Is it off?
Yeah. So I guess like the core high-level idea of Fiction is traditional social media is incompatible with personalized AI-generated content because you can't send a million custom-made things to a million different people. And so with Fiction, we hope to solve that problem by making a whole new experience built from the ground up for personalized AI-generated content.
Yeah, and basically, I think the issue of kind of current social media is that people go on their phones and they scroll and scroll and scroll, and they kind of live all these lives that aren't theirs. And what Fiction's aims to do is not take that away from you. You're still living a different life, but you have more control over it. So now, if you're living in this crazy like cyberpunk world, you can kind of determine where the story goes and give prompts to say, hey, what if this happens in the story, or choose different paths the story can go down through. So it's more of like an interactive way of embracing the Fiction as opposed to like traditional social media.
Yeah, for sure. And I think even just taking it a step back a little bit, if we look at the social media landscape today, or just the way people are creating and consuming content, what we're noticing is that a lot of these companies that are like jumping out and becoming like really popular, for instance, Be Real or TikTok Now, all these different features, what they're all trying to do is they're trying to brand themselves as authentic, or here's how you can become your authentic self. And the way that they're executing on that mission or that ethos is by just marketing it and pushing it on you, saying like, here, we're authentic, you're authentic, you're gonna become authentic by being with us. When in reality, we all know that's not true. So I think what the direction that I wanted to take as a designer was like, hey, everyone's going this one direction where they're trying to portray themselves as authentic. Let's just say, no, we're going to be fake right from the beginning. The content that is being made is not made by a human. It's made by AI, and it's going to be like otherworldly, super creative, and personalized to you. And what ended up happening with this idea was we kind of came together and we said, wow, this actually feels more organic or more real. And, paying homage, I guess, to like Harry Potter or like the genre of fiction where they're not real characters. That Harry Potter's not real. That Anakin Skywalker's not real. But the story arcs, the things that they go through, all the activities, like the story value is so vivid and so intense that it feels real. And so we kind of wanted to emulate that and create a huge quantity of content personalized to your interests. And that's what Fiction is about.
Yeah. And I think at least a really important thing for me is like sort of what you mentioned, and that's why the app is named Fiction. There's a difference between fake and fiction. Like nobody wants to be fake, but people crave, good fiction, high density, creative, engaging, just exploring, wondrous. Like there's so much possibility. And with AI, you can make anything. You can make any world you want with any characters, any situations. The happiest moments, the saddest moments, they can all happen when we create while collaborating together in this new thing we're calling Fiction.
Yeah, and kind of on the collaborating note, everything on the internet kind of relies on like trends, right? It's like, oh, everyone's doing this dance, or everyone is wearing these clothes or doing this action, right? And I feel like Fiction kind of brings the idea of a trend together because you're with the characters over time in their environment, like living with them almost, right? And as you come on the app and as you kind of come back and new stories emerge that are kind of derivatives of other stories that we can create on the fly, you feel like a connection with the people in the stories in the same way that you do with the people like in your actual life. And that is the end goal as we transition to video and audio and kind of make it more real. Mm-hmm. It's kind of bringing those like wild fantasies more like the most engaging storytelling ever, really, because it's characters over time in complex situations, which like is like real life.
Yeah. And I think like one of the features that we built in, which is kind of the social part of the social media app, is like the ability to share content that was made just for you. Like no one else has seen it before. It was made for you. You can share it with your friends. And I kind of like make an analogy to like TikTok, where I know a lot of people are embarrassed to show their like For You pages to their friends or show a lot of content because it's so deeply personal to them. And it's like a societal restriction where they don't feel like they can be themselves. So the interest in sharing TikTok content with your friends is a lot less enticing. But when a piece of content was made just for you and you had this crazy experience or you really felt like this story connects with you and you share it with your friend, it becomes that much more authentic, or it feels like way more emotionally driven when you share it with a friend, right? Because then it feels like, wow, I'm sharing a part of myself with you through a story that was made just for me.
Yeah, and adding on to that, right now I'm actually scrolling through LinkedIn and I just found someone posting AI images of celebrities visiting India. And I was like, LinkedIn is a weird place to post this, right? We
Yeah.
see right now there's a mix of AI content on LinkedIn. There's tons on TikTok, on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
There's no home for it right now. People are they're posting it wherever because
And-
it's engaging, it's funny, it's weird, right? It's fun to look at, but no one knows where to put it.
It's so high density creative. Like every time I see AI content, it's like, that's crazy. I can't believe like I saw that.
Mhm.
And I also like to think about it as like, especially in the early days of especially like AI generated images, I would scroll through, r/Dolly2 or r/Midjourney on Reddit, and you would see people would have the title of the post as the prompt, and then the post would just be the image. And I always thought it was interesting to read the prompt and then see the image, and you could sort of see into the mind of the AI. It was like you read the prompt, and then you see the image, and then it's like the punchline to the prompt.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree that like right now there's no home for this content, and that's what we're trying to build. And I think this idea is huge. It's really big, and we've been experimenting. We've been getting feedback. We've been building for the past few months, but even we don't know what the end version of this is going to look like. There's so many possibilities. I mean, you can even imagine like we've told the idea to some people, and they look at us puzzlingly and say like, "Wait, are you guys building the metaverse?" And we're like, no, we don't think so.
No.
We're building.
Maybe we are, honestly, who knows?
But we're building what we see the future as being, and it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. And on the metaverse note, I think Meta did an announcement that they're going to be pivoting slowly away from the metaverse. So talk about backtracking from a complete.
No legs? How are they doing that?
Isn't their name Meta?
Yeah, so their entire corporate rebrand was moot. I think that's crazy. Until Apple comes out with their VR headset, and then it'll be back on the metaverse. But
that's true. Unfortunately,
we'll wait till June 5th for that. Yeah, I think in general, like let's walk through kind of the different experiences that we have in fiction, where like we have the feed, we have kind of the explore page, and then we have like the profile area. Let's start off with kind of the For You page.
Sure. Yeah. The For You page, the feed, it's very similar to any other, page. It's vertical scrolling, except that, the content is made for you on the spot. And when you, swipe into a story, then the story is generated for you right there. And it's extended for you right there. And you can share it with your friends. Very similar to like another, like TikTok, for example. But again, all the content is made by AI for you.
Mm-hmm. And one of the nice things is that because it's a familiar interface, like as a designer, like I want to make sure that people feel like, oh, I understand how to use this app, even if it's like completely a new experience or using a new technology. So having those elements from like TikTok, having the vertical scrolling, while still maintaining the elements, because we're showing off with AI generated stories, like, oh, when I flip a page in a story, that's a horizontal kind of interaction. So when I instinctively if I want to read more, I'll swipe left and right. So I think it's like those little details, we want to really make sure that it's looked at very closely, and also making sure that you have control, where at the end of a chapter, you get to determine whether you want to continue reading or not. You may like, and we're going to be adding a feature soon where you can explore different paths where might be interested in taking the story one direction. There might be a huge plot twist. So you are in control of the narrative that you want to drive with this story, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, kind of one example of that, I guess, would be, let's say you're in this dramatic car chase scene, and this Jeep is running through thousands of zombies, right? And you get to the end of the chapter, and it stops on a big cliffhanger, and the options are the wheel explodes off the Jeep, right?
Mhm.
Or a cliff is approaching in the distance, or the zombies ate something and now they're running twice the speed, right? You get to choose, you get to
Correct.
make that reality, right? And now you're more invested in the outcome of that story. It's interesting. It almost has become a derivative of your actions, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm already invested in this, and it's not even a real story.
exactly,
But it,
yeah, right.
but it could be.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's pretty interesting is like this notion of like you made a decision, you don't know what the other choices could have been.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's a sort of like cool novelty to that where it's like, oh, I could have gone down the path of the tire popping, but instead I went down the path of the zombies eating like some mushrooms and then like going like 20 times faster.
Exactly, yeah. And
You know,
plays out
Are
for
you?
that. Yeah, and I think, and where we see this going is that when we get to video and audio, right, you'll be able to stop that movie right there and type in and say, the wheel just popped. What does the car do now, right? And then it renders, and you see, and the 4K beautiful movie plays out with your reality. That's really the end.
That's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, it'll be mind-boggling.
Yeah. So, but that's the feed page. I guess kind of moving on.
Yeah, I think novelty, like the feed
Yeah.
is, there's a lot of new stuff, but like the interactions very similar to other feeds, but like the paths and the exploring is super new.
It's something new.
Yeah. The one cool thing is every creation you see on the feed, unlike any other app you've seen before, can be located. And that brings us to the next tab, which is the map, or the explore tab in the middle. And basically what the map is essentially a place where all creations ever created on the app lie. It's sorted by subject into region, or like by theme, or by plot, or by characters at some point. Basically, it's a way to organize all the things that have been created to kind of find what you like. So if you click on any stories locate button, you'll be placed on this little navigator that you can see stories around the same topics, the same subjects that would also maybe interest you. So we spent a lot of time doing a few iterations on kind of like Google Maps type map where you can infinitely zoom, and then we eventually settled on a map that's more navigable and kind of easier to understand with a few less choices, and making it much easier to kind of to see what's on the palette.
Yeah. I think the idea is sort of if you go from the feed page and you say like, oh, this story is really interesting, let me go find like maybe adjacent stories that might be relevant. You can go down a rabbit hole of like, oh wow, I love this zombie Jeep kind of thing. I want to go more of the Walking Dead style and see. You can go down like a rabbit hole, and I think that brings about so much more excitement, and you have control. I think just the discoverability of different stories, different genres, and you being able to control where you want to go is something that's really new, and it's kind of like uncharted territory where instead of just being recommended content just at face value, like forcing you to consume it, you get to choose like, oh, this is a path I'm interested in going down. Let's see what happens. Where do I go from here?
Yeah. And I also think another thing that's super interesting about the Explore page is how it creates, food for thought. Like when, coming up with creative ideas for wacky stories is a lot harder than you would think, after, you can do it once and it's easy, then you do it twice, but by the third time you're sort of running out of ideas. Mm-hmm. Being able to explore and see what else is out there related to, what you've already read and seen can really help spur those creative ideas, which you can then use to, make your own stories right there on the page.
Yeah, I remember like back in like early 2022, like in February of 2022, we were talking about this thing that we dubbed the input problem, where when we were building the first generative AI tools before ChatGPT, we were coming up with like creative block of like, oh, what should we put into this, powerful AI to get a really cool story? And after the first like 5 attempts, we were like, all right, I had all my ideas. And so from there, that was like kind of a seed that was planted in our heads where we were like, this is something that needs to be explored further. How can we solve this input problem?
Like the input problem ended up becoming prompt engineering, and there's a bunch of different solutions to it. Solutions. I'm doing air quotes because nobody can see. But I think sort of our approach to prompt engineering is, you have two options. You can either have the AI help you prompt engineer by just suggesting you stories and by essentially prompt engineering them for you, or you can explore what everyone has created on the app and generate your own ideas and input it right into the AI and get into your story.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between like an app telling you to consume and an app inviting you to explore. And I think like one of the biggest things that at least we've all been feeling, especially as like Gen Zers or just people in general that use social media, like it feels like an algorithm is trying to make us stay engaged or like trying to shove content down our throats all the time. And it gets daunting and boring and like you're just mindlessly scrolling and it doesn't it feels depressing. It doesn't feel like an experience was curated for me. It feels like it was an experience curated for an advertiser. And that's not something that we want to build for ourselves. And so we really wanted to focus on the content, make something that's really relevant to you. And so focusing on this angle is like I'm surprised that it's such a new concept, and that not many people have been doing it. It's like, why not focus on the users and not treat the users like a product? I think that's a pretty normal thing to ask for.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what we wanted, and also, not to like discount that there is validity in just wanting to like scroll and consume content. So we do have that option available for you, right? Where you can get an AI to help generate content and make stories for you or make different things. But then if you want to go explore, you have that opportunity and you have that easy access to it. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah.
The last tab is not.
The last tab is not as exciting.
I mean, I think it's pretty exciting. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah, you can talk about. Oh, I guess I can talk because I haven't talked in a while. So the last tab is the user tab. And unlike your average Instagram homepage that has your picture and a bunch of posts, we've made something called the octopus, which basically is your stash of 8 creations that you hold closest to you. So at some point in the future, they can be videos or movies or albums or for now they're stories. But basically, we limit it to 8 because we think that there's value in scarcity, right? So if you choose, what are the 8 most things the 8 best things you found in this whole app, right? What are those?
Out of infinity.
Exactly. It shows a lot about you, right? So that's kind of our way to show the user profile is your image and then 8 creations. And the image is also AI generated.
Yeah.
You can keep refreshing it, but it will always be AI generated.
Yeah, I think the concept of the profile tab is that one, we did not, or like when I was designing it, I didn't want it to just be like the place where you like check your settings or like you go to log out. I think there's value in seeing like your own little library of content that you really enjoy. And another thing that I've noticed is on social media, or like when I save a post on Instagram or I bookmark a video on TikTok, I don't really go back to the tab where I bookmarked it. I bookmarked it with the promise of seeing it later, but because I can bookmark an endless amount of content, the value of that content is inherently less. But when I only have 8 slots, like I'm really thinking about what is the best content that I want to go back to. And maybe I really love this story so much that I want to continue it. I want to start chapter 2 and I want to like create an entire novel. I don't know. Like there's that value. And also we have the ability where if you add friends, you can see their octopus. And you can see their, 8 most their most personal creations. So there's a sense of like sharing an experience or sharing a little bit more about you through the content that you saved.
Yeah, and I think another thing about the octopus that sort of the 8 slots is that like contrary to TikTok, when you swipe past TikTok videos, chances are you're probably never going to see that TikTok video again. And in fiction, if you swipe past something, there's so many things that there's so many creations being made that like you do really need to save them. There's no way to even look up a creation.
Mhm.
It's basically, a one and done kind of experience unless you want to save it, unless it's very, very meaningful to you. And, it'll be interesting to see the usage of that and see what people save and why they save it. And, if they want more slots, if they want less slots, if they want to, organize them. I don't know. I think it's going to be exciting. It's just going to be exciting to see everyone collaborate and create. Like,
Exactly.
it'd be cool to see what people make and what they bring, into this world.
For sure. And now we are entering, basically today is our launch day, Tuesday, April 11th, 2023, is basically when we launched into open beta. So we currently have 80 users on the app testing it out. There are a lot of bugs.
There are a lot of bugs.
A lot of bugs. I cannot understate how many bugs there are.
It is a beta.
It is a
if
beta.
you aren't embarrassed by your first launch, you launched
True.
too late.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seeing this entrepreneurial saying.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think when a lot of bigger companies they do a beta, it's way more put together. But no, we are actually giving you a beta. So
Yeah.
but the thing is that we iterate really fast, and we're already working on the next things. We're getting user feedback. We want your feedback.
There are daily updates almost. I mean, we're on version 19
yeah.
already.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we're probably going to get to version 40,
Yeah, we launched the open beta in version 13. So, as you
Yeah.
can see, we're moving fast. And I think one of the things is that we really pride ourselves on taking user feedback. So if you are interested in downloading the app, it'll be in the description. Also, if you are interested in hopping on a call with one of us, we'll have that set up as well. We want to talk to you. We want to see what you guys have to say. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you just
Why?
Yeah, why are you using something? Something do you have a suggestion? I don't know.
Something else.
There's literally an endless possibility, but we want to hear from you. We really value any feedback that we get, and so we're just really excited to be on this journey, and we want to share it with you. And hopefully, these podcasts and all of these fireside chats of sorts can give you a little bit of an insight into not just the company, how we view things, but a little bit into why we do work in the AI space, because it's really an exciting space, and there's so much noise. But we gotta
Why we do what we do.
just get a window into our minds.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, a short and sweet podcast.
A lot of work.
We got to get back to work. We got to fix these bugs. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Until next time, this has been the Qaos Podcast.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.
Peace.